But to fight for depression and say that there's no cure, and the only thing you can do is manage your depression, that in itself is depressing.
Wait, major depressive disorder is not able to be cured. I'm reading about this right now. There's no cure for depression, but there are lots of effective treatments. People can recover from depression and live long and healthy lives. You're fighting for people who are depressed.
I'm not anymore.
You're fighting for people who are depressed to just do what? You're saying that, well, there is a cure. Now what you're doing is putting the onus on the individual with depression. Why don't they go and fix themselves up? Why don't they go outside? That's depressing. This is just ignoring the reality behind this disorder.
Do you think that is taking away responsibility to individuals? Like they have no power over their own life, that they can't bring themselves out of it?
You're okay. Now I'm starting to get mad at you. I'm starting to get angry at you.
I'm just saying, from my own experience,
the responsible thing to do would be to talk to a doctor and figure out the best course of action forward. I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving any treatment advice, but it would be irresponsible to just tell yourself, I might be depressed, but I can get through it. That's just unrealistic. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. I agree with you.
Is that not what you're unironically advocating for right now? What's up?
Yeah, I'm ready. I didn't have my headset plugged in.
Okay, cool. So you said you want to have a conversation with me about men suppressing emotions. You said you've noticed some contradictions in some of my past talks on the subject.
Yeah, just your recent ones. I did watch the Sneeko one, and then your debate that you just did live. Which in your debate that you did live, I appreciate you making the distinction between emotion and feeling, which I think a lot of people just went past that, but I appreciated that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the contradiction, I agree with you about men shouldn't suppress emotion.
Okay.
But the contradiction I see is that because you're an advocate for going to therapy and taking these SSRIs or anti-depressants.
Well, hold on. I'm just to clarify, I'm not like an advocate for taking SSRIs. I wouldn't stigmatize somebody if they did decide that was the best course of action for them based on what their own personal doctor said. But no, I'm not like an advocate who's just like, hey, take a pill for everything. Like, no, that's a very personal thing that should be decided by the individual with their doctor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to me, when you were doing the live debate, it did seem that you were putting it as like an either or when he was stating that you should go outside, exercise, touch grass, and then you were saying this and that. It doesn't have to be either or, which is true. Things don't have to be either or.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about these SSRI drugs and the what other antidepressants that aren't SSRIs, they inherently suppress feeling and
SSRIs?
Emotion. Yeah, that's what they do.
No, they don't. No, they usually help balance different brain chemistry. Not so much serotonin, which was originally what was thought. That's kind of been disproven now. But there's a lot of different functions that go on in someone's brain when they have depression, and the medication can help in multiple different ways.
There's a scientific side of it where you can see like the chemical imbalance and how it and how that drug is moving, working in there and stuff like that. But inherently, it is suppressing feeling.
Well, what can happen is if you take the wrong dosage, right? If you're on like say too high of a dose of an SSRI, then it's true that can kind of numb you out and make it so that you don't have feelings, so that you're kind of like a zombie. That is a side effect that can occur, but that is not what they're supposed to do. And usually if you get the dosage right, or if you get the proper medication, that's not the case. That it shouldn't be that way. And if it does, then you're probably on the wrong medication or taking too much of it.
And you think that most people are on the right dosage and the right medication?
I mean, no, I don't know. But I don't know how this is. If they are taking the right dosage, you shouldn't be unable to have any feeling. I mean, you can look it up. Do SSRIs stop you from having feelings? No, of course not. They don't do that. Usually it helps you get out of certain debilitating degrees of feelings, like feeling like the world is completely dark and there's no hope future and nothing is positive and you feel super unhappy all the time. Usually it does help you stop feeling that way, because feeling that way is irrational. That's what the depression is. It's an irrational feeling of consistent sadness and discontentness. So no, but it's not like you just don't feel anymore.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying, but there is a large amount of people that are reporting, the suppression of feeling and emotion and empathy, things that they felt in the past. It's kind of like, this isn't the best example but I'll still use it even though it's not 100% the best. But with cancer treatment, okay, cancer treatment works to a certain extent, but it kills off good cells too. So when you take these SSRIs, you might have some effects that are positive, but overwhelmingly it's suppressing everything that's good too.
Well, can I read you this really quickly? So it says that emotional blunting is also considered a potential side effect of antidepressants, in particular SSRI antidepressants. And it's been reported in multiple case reports and clinical studies. And then it says the majority of people taking the most commonly prescribed antidepressants improve substantially, but sometimes SSRIs go beyond improving mood and make a person feel too little emotion. So yeah, it's not supposed to reduce emotion. Emotional blunting is what you're talking about, and that would be a negative side effect, which means that you need to get on either a different medication or a different dosage,
or just not do it.
Yeah, or if it just doesn't work for you, then yeah, sure, there's other options too. But you don't take an SSRI with the intention of achieving emotional blunting. That's usually means that it's not right.
But people do, because if you have feelings that are uncomfortable, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you attribute that feeling to the word depression or other things, dark, whatever you want to call it, then they go and they take these drugs and it blunts your feeling. It suppresses your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really inherently addressing the problem. It's like going in and you doing a surgery. Instead of doing a surgery, you just put a giant Band-Aid over it, and you still have the problem that's there, but you're suppressing it. You're just trying to
there's two differences. No. So first of all, are you talking about emotional blunting specifically? Because that's a negative side effect. That's recognized as a bad thing. So it's already across the board, whether you're talking antidepressants or not, it is bad to suppress emotions. Second of all, the SSRIs do not just put a Band-Aid on. Usually they work to help regulate certain, I don't want to say chemicals in the brain because I think that's no longer the case, but it's usually neurotransmitters in the brain. And it helps to regulate it. Not to mention people with depression and anxiety, they too will feel emotional blunting. Feeling or feeling numb, like an emotionless zombie, is a side effect and something that occurs with people who have depression. So it's bad to have emotional blunting, but again, if you achieve the proper dose, that's not usually the case.
I hear what you're saying, but it's just there is a strong correlation, to suppressing, when you're suppressing emotion, with a drug, and then just, doing it yourself. There's not much of a difference to me. I think that suppressing
there
emotion
is a huge difference, which is one, you're talking about a medication that's actually regulating your emotions. You're not talking about a medication that suppresses it unless you're taking it wrong or taking too much or it's the wrong medication. So I think that there's a big difference there. Secondly, there's a difference between being on a medication, again, that helps regulate your feelings and emotions, as opposed to feeling those emotions and then just suppressing it because you have to be a man or because you want to look tough. There's a difference there. One is actually a regulation. It's not like the SSRIs are there actually just suppressing emotion. It regulates it. Because, isn't that what depression is partially, right? Is like you feel too much of one thing. You feel too much sadness or lack of energy or lack of motivation, and everything feels grim and dark and hopeless. Like, those are feelings also. But you also shouldn't have too much of those feelings, or else you could be in depression. So a lot of it is about regulating. It's not about suppressing.
think I think depression would be, I think there's a lot of energy in depression. There would there's a lot of energy in depression. There's depression. Depression is just you being very sensitive and feeling.
Wait, no, that's.
Yeah, you're
I feel
feeling
like
a
you don't
lot of shit.
understand. First of all, depression is heavily correlated with lack of motivation and lack of energy. Fatigue and depression go hand in hand. But you're also right that sometimes it can have the reverse thing. So it can be depression has it can interrupt sleeping. So it can make it harder to sleep and it can make it harder to not sleep. But that doesn't mean that if you're having a hard time sleeping, that you're like super energetic. And even if you are, I don't know if it would be the positive kind. It would probably be feeling energy. I don't know. I can just look it up. Depression, fatigue.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I think we're not on the same page. So when I say there's a lot of energy in depression, I don't mean that there's these people are energetic, and expressing like exuberant amounts of energy. I'm just saying I look at it the same as like there's a lot of energy in a cup of coffee. There's a lot of energy in everything, Like if you could extract the energy from a cup of coffee, you could power your whole city. So there's a lot of energy in stuff. So to look at it is like these people have low energy. They're just putting a lot of energy into depression, which is their own experience, and they're
Okay,
going
sure.
through
If their
something
energy is being
to
drained
suppress.
because they're consistently thinking about how hopeless they feel, then okay. But either way, that's still ultimately the result there is lack of energy and fatigue, right? Like if all your energy is being drained on because you're heavily focused on how bad everything is and how sad you are and you're using all your energy crying or something.
All your energy to continue in a state of depression, but and that is energy that does drain your energy. The best course of
So
action would be
depression
to
can lead to fatigue. Yes, that's what I said.
but the best course of action wouldn't be to suppress your feeling
Mhm.
to of depression. It would be to go to the fundamental reason what brought you into depression
You're
and
taking the same
try to
direction
fix
that
it.
Doyle tried to, where he said that if you have depression, then it's usually, or anxiety, it's usually like a warning that something's wrong. You're
There is,
missing,
yeah,
no,
there is.
you're
You don't
missing
think your body gives you warnings? You don't think that
hold on. That's not
you're
what I said. Stop. Yeah, of course, your body gives you warnings, but depression and anxiety does not mean that there is a valid reason to be concerned or that your body is somehow giving you a valid warning. That's the whole problem with depression and anxiety. Again, it's irrational. It's there's less activity in the hippocampus. I know that that's been demonstrated, and there are different parts of your brain that can even shrink when you have depression. So no, there's not like a fundamental reason as to why you have depression. Now, let me actually clarify. There could be if you have circumstantial depression or seasonal depression. You're right.
you
There
think
could be
that
a
we know
fundamental thing,
everything about
but
depression, there's nothing else to learn about depression?
no, I
Like,
think there's a
they've
lot
got it
to
all
learn about
figured out?
depression, but I don't think that you're learning anything or giving any good information on depression. I think you're talking out of your ass. Because
Okay, that's fair.
depression is the irrational aspect of feeling sad, hopeless, thoughts of suicide consistently. Usually, lack of motivation, low mood, no real desire to do anything. That's not a
Yeah,
warning.
those are
There's not necessarily like a
those are symptoms of depression, yeah.
yes,
Like, I'm not arguing that.
but you're saying that you need to look at the fundamental reason why you have depression. For people who have like what I have, major depressive disorder, then there is no fundamental reason. That's why it's irrational. That's why it's depression. It's not like, oh, if only I could fix this, I wouldn't be depressed, or if only this could happen, then I wouldn't be depressed. It's that no matter what the fuck happens, you feel depressed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what if it's just what if it's not like if I fix the job that I it's not going to be that because that's not where depression that's not why people have depression. If I fix the job or the relationship or this or that, it's not going to be some, you know, physical, item or
Mm-hmm.
something like that or scenario that's going to fix depression. Uh, it's more of like when people are depressed, they're usually feeling a lot of things, and a lot of these things that they're feeling aren't usually theirs. Okay, so I mean, empath isn't the best word, but I mean we can use it here because there's not going to be another word that you'll be able to
I got you.
have qualia with. Um, but empath, you're feeling a lot of things that aren't yours, so then you believe that they're yours, and then you take those on and you act them out.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you
What
mean?
the part did I not understand? What makes sense?
What do you mean
Like what part?
taking on something that's not yours? I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, so say that this is just an example. It's not perfect, but let's say that, for example, a car accident or, a bombing happened, you
Mm-hmm.
know, 2 cities away, and you're an empath and you feel it. Okay, now you feel these feelings, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling all this and all that. Then you believe that those are your feelings. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think that
You're
that can
taking on the
happen. I think that
belief.
that can happen, but I don't think that that's necessarily what depression is. Again, there are
I'm
different
saying that
types of.
that is one aspect of depression that's caused, and it's used for an example to show you that there's not just an easy answer, and people aren't really educated on feeling and emotions and thought. Like, do you know the difference between a thought and emotion?
Well, hold on. So you are actually you're correct to a degree here. Um, the seemingly positive emotion can also have a downside, particularly if someone gets so consumed by another feelings that they neglect their own feelings and needs. Those who regularly prioritize others' emotions over their own are more susceptible to experiencing anxiety or low level depression. So, sure, I mean, yeah, if you're consistently obsessing over what other people are feeling, and if someone else is going through a hard time and you're sort of empathizing with them to the extent that you're now neglecting your own well being, then yeah, that could probably contribute to feelings of depression as well. But I don't think it's fair to say that, like, oh, people with depression are just taking on others' feelings and thinking it's their own. It would depend what kind of depression you're talking about.
Yeah, that's just one example. That's probably like a percentage of people with depression. Like there's other reasons for depression. That's just was an example of depression that I was giving. So to to let you understand, like, kind of, it's not good. What's going to fix it? The fundamental reason isn't exactly a physical, change, like a changing a job or a situation, or getting the new Xbox is going to make you, you know, not depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just an analogy or a situation where there's more going on than, oh, I just don't I have no idea why I have depression. There's no, you know I have no
What if the reason
mental
for depression
concept
is
of them.
because of there's massive lack of regulation when it comes to neurotransmitters in your brain? What if that's the fundamental cause?
Well, what's causing that?
That's the that's the problem. That's the depression. No, like you don't know. You could be genetically predisposed to it. Now you're right that there's different kinds of depression, right? So there's major depressive disorder, which is where you're perpetually depressed or prone to depression, really regardless of any external factor. That's the kind that I struggle with most. There is also circumstantial depression. You're right. So like if your father dies and you feel really sad about that, and that's something that is now causing deep feelings of sadness that are now causing you to neglect your own well-being, and it's causing challenges in your day-to-day life. That could be a form of depression. That's circumstantial depression. So maybe the way you would go about dealing with that is talk therapy, working through these feelings, making sure that you're kind of coping with those in a healthy way. But for some people, whether it's trauma that they've experienced when they were young or just simply a genetic predisposition, they have a problem with brain chemistry or neurotransmitters in the brain, and that would demand treatment, no?
Do you think, yeah, I'm just trying to pick your brain here. Do you think there's a correlation between some of the mass shootings and those plane crashes that um you know plane crashes that happened in like 2016, I think it was, and just random plane crashes. Uh, just just these random horrible events where people do horrible stuff, and them being on these SSRIs. Do you think that there's a correlation to that, or no?
To being on SSRIs and like crashing a plane?
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. That was back in 2016, but
Do you mean like school shootings?
school shootings, you know, you know, just these horrible things that are more prevalent now than in our past, in the country's past.
I mean, is there any evidence that some of the more recent school shootings were carried out by people that were on antidepressants?
Yeah, there is.
Do you know of
Yeah,
any
there is.
examples?
Um,
Which school shooting? Because it could be that having depression or anxiety is more likely to contribute to acts of violence like that in some of the more severe cases. So they could have been on the antidepressant to try and curtail that. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's actually the cause of the medication.
okay, well,
Let me look this
I
up.
just yeah.
All right, let's see.
There's probably studies on either side, because it's fairly new. So there's going to be studies probably people claiming that it's the depression and they use the SSRIs to try to cope with the depression, and it didn't help and they did their crazy stuff anyway. And then there's going to be the studies where people say that it was the SSRIs that are
Yeah, I'm
are
seeing some here from Marjorie Taylor Greene where she made some claims like that. Let's see.
who's that?
Just a really dumb Republican person. Let me see. Hold on. Theories about. I'm trying to find this. Reports of his mental health alone do not prove he was taking or had taken SSRIs. Okay, hold on. Most school/mass shooters have taken or recently stopped taking medications for mental illness. Taking or going off and on these meds can increase instability and oftentimes exacerbate mental health problems instead of helping to solve the underlying emotional crisis. Again, of what information exists about the there were no reports then. So yeah, I mean it sounds like there could be a link.
Yeah, and if you and then this comes back to my point. If
But could I just really quickly cut in just I right before you say that? These people that are committing these mass shootings, they're not like these normal people who are just taking medications and suddenly like go crazy and start shooting up schools. They're usually already crazy or already have some underlying problem. That's why you hear a lot about school shooters who, when they were younger, were reported as killing animals and taking pleasure in death. A lot of these people, it's not like they go on SSRIs and then they're just like snapped and all of a sudden they start committing acts of terrorism.
No, I agree with you 100%. What I was going to say was, like, when you have these types of people, instead of addressing the underlying problems and just putting them on SSRIs, it's like suppressing it. It's like putting a top on a boiling bowl of water, and with the SSRIs are the top, and when they stop taking it and take it off, the underlying problem is explosive because it's never addressed. It's just suppressed. Okay, and then they go nuts, and then it goes bad.
I would be willing to bet that a lot of these people that carry out this shooting are dealing with a hell of a lot more than just like your everyday average depression kind of thing. Usually they have like severe psychiatric problems. So, for example, this one is showing how let's see, Nicholas Cruz, he committed the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Let's see. This was the Dayton shooter, was on an SSRI antidepressants, but he had also been taking cocaine, Xanax, and alcohol. So there's that, and then they talk about another one. I think it was Nicholas Cruz, who was in and out of like behavioral. Yeah, he was receiving treatment from a behavioral health center and was reported to have been taking psychological medication regularly before committing the mass shooting. So it sounds like there's more of a correlation here with having mental health problems and then carrying out violent acts, which makes sense because I don't think people in their right mind would be able to carry out like a mass shooting. I don't think that that's very common. So I don't know. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. Is it because they were on the medication, or are they already having psychiatric problems? So they're on medication for that, and then they go on to commit a shooting. We don't know necessarily.
I think it's both. Like I said, I think that they do have serious psychiatric issues that aren't dealt with, and they just give them these SSRIs, to try to make it go away, but it's never really addressed. It never really goes away. And when these people are coming off, they stop taking their medication or they're on and off of it, the imbalance is just exacerbated.
Well, yeah, and
then you see
that's
these
something problem, but
extreme
that's why
acts.
yes, but
You
that's
see
why
these
if you're going to
extreme
go
acts.
off your medication, you're again supposed to talk to your doctor, and there's ways to go off of it. You take less and less and less gradually, so you don't have some kind of a mental instability episode. So there are ways to do it, and even this one that I'm reading which is more or less arguing for your position, does say that there's other data that suggests only about a quarter of mass shooters have been on psychiatric medications like SSRIs. So there's a hell of a lot of school shootings that have been carried out by people who were not on this medication. I would be willing to bet that it's more likely that they had some kind of a mental health problem. They were given medication to try and treat that, but ultimately the mental health problem is what led to carrying out that act of violence.
Okay. You know? Um, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I was just stating my point. It's a conversation. I don't,
Yeah, no. I'm not trying to scream at you or anything. I think also that it's important to remember that like antidepressants can really affect people in very different ways. So like this article that I was just looking at talks about somebody who said they started taking Zoloft and then they started having like homicidal thoughts. That's a problem. That's a potential side effect. That's why they say there's the black box warning on this medication that says, hey, this could actually increase the risk of suicide. Now, for me, I took Zoloft a little while ago, a couple years ago now, and it was great. It worked fucking wonders for me. And I realized once I started taking that medication how irrational and consistently debilitated I was by some of this anxiety and OCD and depression, that suddenly things seemed a lot clearer when I wasn't controlled by such negative mindset, if that makes sense. But
that makes
that's because
sense.
it depends on the person. So, like, I
Yeah.
am sure
So,
that some people
so
have
I'm not,
taken SSRIs and may have even fucking gone nuts. Like, it affects everybody differently.
yeah. So, um, this is my stance with medication in general. Like, yeah, I agree with like if somebody needs like is such in a stuck place in a dark place that they need the initial medication to remember, because your cells have memory,
Hmm.
their your body remembers. So if the medication, brings you out of that and then you can remember what it's like not to be there,
Yeah.
you can really see the difference,
Right.
um, then you don't really need the medication anymore.
Well, no,
You
that's
can.
not true because, again, remember the medication is helping to regulate mood. So if you were to stop, now, okay, let me again clarify here. It's true that like some people take antidepressants forever, other people take it, they get better, and then they slowly wean themselves off. Obviously, you should never just like abruptly stop taking your medication. That would be a bad idea. Um, but I forgot where I was
I
going with
think
that.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
there's gonna be. I think there's gonna this antidepressant stuff is gonna go down the same path that the pain medications went down. People arguing for it. It does great here, and then there's just too many people that don't need it taking it, because they're more their awareness, their feeling is higher,
Well, right,
and
but what you said a minute ago is that there are some people though that they can be on the medication. It helps them think clearer and see how they were previously being so controlled by emotion, right? Or by these debilitating feelings of despair, but then going off the medication can cause the depression to just come back. So there are some people that do stay on the medication because it continues to regulate their mood and the neurotransmitters in their brain.
Okay, so the underlying issue of depression needs to be, their personal underlying reason for depression needs to be addressed.
No, you're wrong. You're not understanding. Depression is
So
like a
you think there's
hold on,
no
wait.
there's no
Depression.
issue?
No, wait, stop,
There's nothing
stop,
under
stop.
there.
No, depression is like a chronic illness. Okay? You can't be cured of it. You're never going to be cured of depression. You can treat it and manage it, just like diabetes. You don't just take insulin for a little while and once you get better, stop taking it. It's chronic. You have to continuously treat and manage it.
That's proven that it's untreatable. There's everything's known about it. There's nothing. They figured it all out, and these drugs are the
No,
answer.
but based on what we know right now, depression, unless it's a circumstantial type of depression, in many cases, especially with major depressive disorder, it is a chronic problem. It's a chronic illness. So no, there is no like cure where all of a sudden I'm better and no longer depressed. It's you manage it. You take the medication to help regulate your mood and the neurotransmitters, and you get to a place where you can still live your life and enjoy your life, but depression is always going to be something that you have to deal with.
Do you think that answer in itself is depressing? For somebody that has depression that wants
whether it's depressing or not, it's about whether or not it's realistic and it's chronic. So that's the truth of the matter.
That's their current understanding and truth. It's so the prescriptions and the way that doctors deal with depression and facilitate depression is ever changing, and new discoveries are made. So that answer in itself is depressing. Okay, and somebody that says I don't want to be depressed anymore. I want to be able to heal and come out of this. For you to say that there's no answers, like they don't know.
You're doing this. You're giving the depressing thing, because what you're saying is that, oh, well, if you work hard enough or if you do the right things with your life, then you'll stop being depressed. That's not true. You're giving people a false sense of hope where, you know what's going to happen? They're going to try and do what you're saying, and then they're still going to feel depressed. There are things you can change in your own life to try and improve your well-being. It's true, like what I said in the Doyle debate. Go outside, go to the gym, have friends. These things can improve depression, but depression itself is a chronic disorder, which means it needs to be treated or managed, whether that's through medication or other ways. But no, there's no like cure for depression, at least when we're talking about the more severe kind. I looked it up too, just to be sure, and yes, it is. Theory and research on depression have increasingly focused on the recurrent and chronic nature of the disorder. These recurrent and chronic forms of depression are extremely important to study, as they may account for the bulk of the burden associated with the disorder. Situational depression is short term.
I think that the cure, for depression, like what's his name was saying, I don't even know who that is, but the person you were debating doesn't have to be the answer. It can be something else, but to say that there's no healing for your depression,
there is healing.
You're fighting for depression.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're fighting for
fighting for depression.
No, you're not. Because I'm also saying that when you go to therapy, and if your doctor has decided that medication might help you, that's the way that you try and treat it. That's the way that you manage it. And that's how you can help kind of push yourself in the right direction to get out of depression. You don't take a magic pill and then feel better all of a sudden. You also have to take steps and make an effort in your own life, yes. But I'm not fighting for depression. I'm fighting
managing depression and then bringing yourself to heal out of depression. There's going to be
So what should be done then? If you're telling me it's not chronic, so what should be done then? How do you get better from depression?
How do you get better from depression? Well, it depends on the person, but I think that creativity and depression are extremely linked. So you'll see that.
Sorry, could you say that again? What is linked? Depression, what?
And creativity. Okay. There's a strong correlation with these two things. So the lack of creativity in somebody's life usually has a strong correlation with depression.
This is wrong. Actually, more creative people are more likely to be depressed, not the other way around.
Okay, well, that's just what I've seen in my personal life. So I'm just, it's gonna be, I guess, anecdotal from here, but to fight for depression and say that there's no cure, which there is no cure right now, and to say that there's no healing of depression, and it just is, and the only thing you can do is manage your depression.
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is depressing.
Wait, I don't care, because I care about what is true and accurate. And based on what we understand right now, there is no cure for depression.
At one point, everybody understood that the world was flat, you know?
Wait,
but it ended up not true.
Stop. No, stop doing this, okay? You don't just say at one point people were wrong, so therefore people might be wrong now. That's not how this works. Right now, based on the research available, we know that chronic depression or major depressive disorder is not able to be cured. I'm reading about this right now. There's no cure for depression, but there are lots of effective treatments. People can recover from depression and live long and healthy lives. You're fighting for depression. You're fighting for people who are you're fighting for people who are depressed.
I'm not anymore.
You're fighting for people who are depressed to just do what? To do what? You're saying that, well, there is a cure. Now what you're doing is putting the onus on the individual with depression. Why don't they go and fix themselves up? Why don't they go outside? That's depressing. That makes people who already feel hopeless and like a failure to everybody around them feel even more like a failure, because now, well, I can get better. I should be able to just pull myself out of this. This is just ignoring the reality behind this disorder.
Do you think that is taking away responsibility to individuals? Like they have no power over their own life, that they can't bring themselves out of it?
You're okay. Now I'm starting to get mad at you. I'm starting to get angry at you.
I'm just saying, from my own experience,
the responsible thing to do would be to go to therapy and go to a doctor and try and figure out what the best course of action is if you have depression. If you have consistently, I think it's a minimum of 2 weeks, consistently of negative feelings and emotions and feeling unmotivated and despair and suicidal ideation, then the proper thing to do would literally be to seek out treatment. That's taking responsibility.
Okay, but I'm just saying that for somebody to I forgot what you said, dude. I was thinking when you were speaking.
No, it's okay. I was saying that it does. Are there some people who lie about depression? Yes. Are there some people who think that just feeling sad and having a bad day means they're depressed? Yeah. But if somebody actually has depression, and if they are struggling with this for a minimum of 2 weeks, then the responsible thing to do is to talk to a doctor and figure out the best course of action forward. Maybe it is situational depression. Maybe they don't need medication. Maybe there's a different way that they can treat this. It's true that situational depression can be largely cured, or at least it's temporary. But if you're talking about major depressive disorder...
Yeah, I'm talking about major depression. I'm not talking about situational depression.
Yeah, then the responsible thing to do would be talk to a doctor and figure out the best course of action. I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving any treatment advice, but it would be irresponsible to just tell yourself, I might be depressed, but I can get through it. I can get through it. I'm good. I can get through it. That's just unrealistic. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, that's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. That's unrealistic. I agree with you.
Is that not what you're unironically advocating for right now?
No, I'm advocating for somebody that has depression. Like I've had depression for years and came out of it, and I don't have depression. I don't accept depression in my life anymore. Like I just don't.
Okay. I don't know what to say, what to tell you. I mean,
I'm just saying
that for you, I guess. Like, what kind of depression did you have? Are you sure it was depression? Did you have a different ailment?
For years.
Maybe the depression was maybe the depression was vitamin D deficiency. You start going outside, you have more vitamin D. There are different reasons as to why you could have depression. And I mean, if you're telling the truth, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Obviously, I want as little people as possible to have depression, but I don't think that when you pose this as like a responsibility thing, you're doing anybody a favor. Because again, you're now putting the onus on the person with the fucking illness.
Okay, not in the because I know that there is the right side talking about pull yourself up by your bootstraps and take responsibility, and that's like one of their things, but it's not like that. It's not like that. It's just being like, hey, there is an underlying issue that I need to deal with within myself, and let me look inside and see what it is, and let me really deal with that.
And what if the underlying issue is that you have an imbalance with neurotransmitters in your brain? Then what do you do? What if that is the underlying issue?
I mean, I'm not saying the medicine's bad. You could take the medicine and then, to bring yourself back into balance, address other issues, and then you don't need the medicine anymore. I don't think that it's a permanent thing. I don't think that it's
You're just
I
lying to
don't.
yourself right now. Some
Okay,
people
go
are
ahead.
able to come out of depression. You may have had depression for another reason. It may have been situational depression that maybe lasted longer, but you were able to get out of it. It's also true that people going through puberty and whatnot when they're younger have a lot of fluctuation in hormones and feelings and emotions. So that could have been a contributor. But for people who have major depressive disorder, it is more depressing for you to say, well, I don't think it's permanent. You can get better. You can do it. That's useless to people with depression. And you need to ask yourself, why do some of the most famous, wealthy, rich people kill themselves? They have it all. They've done it all. They've succeeded. They go outside. They have
About that,
friends.
obviously. It's not
Hmm?
about that. It's not about that. It's about other things. It's about what you have going on internally.
Yes, that's exactly. And
It's not
sometimes the
about how
thing
much
going on
stuff you
internally is something that needs treatment and managing.
Okay, and the drugs just aren't it. The drugs just aren't it. I mean, I'm sure that they can help,
Why?
to a certain extent, but they're
Why are
just
you saying things
suppressing.
and then going back against it? You just said you don't care if they take medication. Now you're saying they don't work or they're not the right move. Again,
They're
this
not,
is
but
it's
they can take it and have a positive effect initially,
okay.
but to continue to take it as if the drug is fixing it, is
Then why do people have more like why do people recover from depression then when they get on medication? Like I don't understand. If it's not that some people can wean off the medication, that's true. Others can't. Other people have the type of depression where that's just not really an
it's
option.
usually the people that, they're in such a bad spot that they get on the medication, they remember how it is to feel better. They can really address the issues, and then they can get off the medication, and it's fine, and they're good. There's other people that get on the medication and they're leaning really heavy into it, as it's the fix. They don't really want to look, they don't want to look towards them, to address any real
You
issues that are
keep
going
doing
on.
it. You keep assuming that people with depression must have some kind of internal problem that they need to deal with themselves. That is not how depression works. I don't know how many times I need to fucking say that. I think that what you're getting at is that you shouldn't be over reliant on medication, which is also true. This is why I said again with my debate recently about depression, it's not an either or. You should, if what is recommended by your doctor is to get on medication. I'm not giving medical advice, just to be clear. But if your doctor says you should take medication, then do that and also take steps to better your life. Work on going outside more, go to the gym, try and make friends. It's not either or. You shouldn't be overly dependent on medication. Like I said, it's not a magic pill that's just going to fix everything, but it can absolutely help pull you out of the debilitating stage so that you can have the motivation even to try and better your life. This isn't that complicated, my dude.
I think you just said the same thing I said, but it's a different way.
No, I said it. I said it the right way, which is that medication can be beneficial, but it's not either or. You're saying like medication isn't really the answer. They need to look within themselves. What about the people who have no problems? They have done nothing wrong. They've lived a happy, healthy life, and they still have depression. Sometimes it's nothing within themselves that they need to fix. Sometimes it's a problem in your brain.
Because you don't have the perception of somebody's going on within. So how would you know it's not that?
Wait, could you say that again?
How would you know? Like, just because somebody has a bunch of cars and they're rich and everything, they can still have deep-seated issues within themselves,
Mhm.
that makes them depressed. And then they get on the medications and they never address the issues, and then they just either continue taking these medications, or they they really go crazy because they're just avoiding their problems.
Okay, let me just read this to you
And
really quickly and then we got to wrap this up because now I need to go take some depression meds. MRI scans may be able to detect physical and functional changes in the brain that could be markers for major depression. Two new studies presented at the annual meeting of the Radiological blah blah blah. Sorry, I know I said that wrong. Society of North America may also point to new pathways for future research and therapy. MRI scans can see the abnormalities in your brain behind depression. It is a problem, a mental issue that needs treatment. This isn't just look inward and figure out what's wrong, bro. Open your third eye, dude. Sometimes maybe if someone's feeling depressed because they're guilty, because they committed a crime or something like that, then yeah, you would probably go about dealing with that differently. But major depressive disorder, you can literally see it in fucking brain scans. Just think about what I said. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on here.
Before you go, I see the same argument for addiction too. Like once you're addicted, you're always addicted. And for an addict, that's depressing. If they're going to get help, and to say, well, once you're addicted, you're always addicted. I might as well just keep being addicted. There's no resolution there. Yeah.
No. What? If it's chronic, that doesn't mean you just, oh, well, I have diabetes. It's chronic. Never going to be able to be cured. So I guess I'll just roll over and fall into a diabetic coma. What the fuck are you talking about?
If somebody goes for help and wants to have resolution to their addiction, and then they're told by the person that's giving that help that once you're addicted, you're always addicted.
No, it doesn't mean that you're always addicted. It means that you are always going to have a problem in your brain that makes it so that you are more susceptible to addiction. You can break an addiction and still have a problem in your brain that is a chronic.
Addicted.
No,
it's a dry addict. You're still addicted.
No, it's a chronic problem where you are more prone to addiction. Sure, but the answer is not, oh, well, addiction is chronic, so might as well keep being addicted. What? Whether it's a chronic or not, you still want to take steps to treat it, to manage it, to stop being addicted to whatever thing is that you're addicted to. Just like you can take steps to treat and manage depression and come out of the deep-seated depressive episodes to try and manage your life and live your life better. Telling people that it's chronic is not the same as saying you shouldn't do anything about it.
I'm just saying, I'm advocating for, for freedom from addiction and depression, and you're advocating that there is none.
That's a bullshit lie. You're saying that the freedom from depression is somehow within yourself, which means that people who have depression are failing at some level because they themselves are not able to pull themselves out of depression. I'm saying depression is a real problem in your brain that you can even see with MRI scans. So you should do what you can, whether it's therapy, medication, go outside, etc., to better your mental well-being. It's chronic. You're always going to be prone to it.
That's a perception that the person would personally have to take on, that they are failing in some way, instead of being like, oh,
that's what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying they're failing. It's not a failure.
That's the logical follow-through of the bullshit you're saying right now.
No, it's not a failure to have issues that need to be addressed, and that you just didn't address them. You've been told your whole life that there's no addressing it. That you have to take these pills or you have to do something else.
Now you're just straw manning. Nobody's saying this. No. The best course for people with depression is
these are ways that people can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, hey, I was told that once you're addicted, you're always addicted, or once you have depression, there's no really, they don't understand it enough. There's no fix to it, so take the medications.
The medication is the fix. It's not a fix, like it's not going to cure it, but it's going to help you manage it. It's going to.
It's a suppressor of emotions.
No, it's not. We already read about this. No,
it's a suppressor of emotions.
I think you have the illusion. No. You have the illusion of somebody who's smart. Okay, I think that you've delusioned yourself into thinking that you know way more about this fucking thing than you do. Every piece of information that I provided has contradicted the dumb claims you're making.
I have firsthand experience with it.
So do I.
Okay.
So rethink what you're saying. You can take responsibility individually and try to better your life. That doesn't mean then that the option of therapy or possibly medication, if that's what your doctor says, is off the table. It's not either or. It could be both.
What do you think that I said out of all this?
What?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that it was not. It was either or. I agreed with you that.
No, you didn't. Both. You said the answer isn't the medication.
It's not. It's not. At the end of the day, it's not, but it is a.
I need medication now because you are hurting my brain. You can see my agony. You can see the agony going on in my brain as my brain cells are dying because of all the dumb shit you're saying. Rethink your position on this. You're wrong.
The medication can be used as a bridge.
You need medication,
but it's not the answer.
You need medication, okay?
I don't know why
That started off as like a decent conversation and then it just went downhill from there. Jeez. Not everybody has the same life experiences. Like, just if some people are able to pull themselves out of depression by the bootstraps doesn't mean that everybody can. Yeah, that made me depressed.